When people think of large ancient mammals, our minds tend to sway in a certain direction. Most think of the woolly mammoth or the saber-toothed cats, but in reality this is just the surface of something way more disturbing. As many absolute monstrous versions of modern-day animals used to exist, and well, let's just be thankful that we don't have to live with them in our current generations. Let's go all the way back to the most ancient one I'm going to talk about today. Meet Andrewsarchus. This creature resembles that of a gigantic wolf, bear-like creature that is known as one of, if not the biggest terrestrial carnivorous mammal to ever exist. And it's a creature you wouldn't exactly expect to have hooves. It lived during the Paleogene, about 45 to 35 million years ago, in Mongolia, so not too long after the dinosaurs. Well, of course, in the broad sense of things. The only known specimen is a large skull, measuring 33 inches in length, which was able to give us a size estimate, which was about 4 meters from snout to tail. Yes, massive. Now, Andrewsarchus had an interesting jaw design perfect for its lifestyle. It had sharper teeth in front that could shear meat off bones, but in the back of the jaws it had much more blunt, stocky-like teeth, perfect for crushing bones from dead carcasses, similar to that of modern-day bears. And yes, we do believe it was a scavenger, although its sheer size would give it a massive opportunity when it comes to battle. Just like most massive creatures, it went extinct to competition from rising predators and changes in the environment like the Himalayan mountains rising, which led to instability, causing them to eventually just disappear. Now, like I said, we are very lucky we don't have to exist with these large prehistoric megafauna, but I'll say this right now, not all humans were so lucky. This is the short-faced bear, better known today as the Arctotherium. One of the oldest species and the largest is known as Arctotherium angustidens, which lived roughly 2.5 to 1.2 million years ago. Although these numbers seem to be quite jumbled simply because people add the entire genus and say it lived from 2.5 million years ago to 11,000 years ago, so just be wary. Arctotherium angustidens measured about 1.8 meters tall, that is when it was standing on all fours. When it stood up, it was easily over twice the height of an average human, and probably weighed around 3,500 pounds. Now, this apex predator lived in what is now South America, as his previous ancestors had traveled there from North America from the Panamanian land bridge around 3 million years ago, making bears very common upon the two continents. Now, Arctotherium, or should I say Arctotheriums, didn't have much to worry about, as they were the apex predators of their time, as it had very large and robust bodies similar to that of present-day bears, and had massive claws on a much bigger scale. And to top it all off, it had extremely powerful jaws, just like that of modern-day bears once again. Now, after the biggest species faded out, more of the genus continued to live on. And yes, the entire genus died out around 11,000 years ago, meaning yes, they lived with humans for a decent amount of time. But when humans showed up, their population actually decreased to major competition from said humans, and other predators that could be threatening to their young, like large birds of prey. And yeah, these factors are what we think led to their extinction, a combination of many factors. No matter how big, how large, how scary an apex predator can be, humans will always be the ultimate apex predators. Now let's move on to the last topic. Now this creature is probably my favorite prehistoric megafauna, because, well, I love lizards. Yes, I'm talking about Megalania. Now, Megalania is interesting. You know, the existence of large bears makes sense, but something about a giant monitor lizard that's significantly bigger than its modern-day counterparts just doesn't make as much sense to me. But there is one thing that blew this proposition out of the water for me, and that is, it lived in Australia, so everything's pretty much explained there. Megalania first popped up around 50,000 years ago in Australia. Now, may I add, at this point in Australia, it was already worse than modern-day Australia it is, by a long shot, as there was literal, full terrestrial crocodiles, massive birds of prey, and supersized snakes everywhere. But despite all of this, Megalania was still one of the most formidable to the other creatures, and unfortunately, humans, who just happened to pop up when the Megalania did. Scientists always seem to have a struggle when it comes to this creature, due to the limited specimens that we had back then. But what we have now is still nightmare fuel. The Varanus priscus, the only known species in the genus, was estimated to be around 3.5 meters and somewhere around 350, maybe 400 pounds, which albeit is still awful, being significantly bigger than a Komodo dragon already, which, by the way, is the closest living relative to it. But, of course, things had to get a little worse, As later estimates, with the help of scaling its fragments up to monitor lizard sizes, we came up with a new estimate of around 7 meters in length, actually closer to 8, and could be around 1,200 to 4,000 pounds, or 2 tons. But most large specimens were probably on the lower side of about 1,200 pounds. Following the trend of modern-day monitor lizards, it was definitely venomous, and its venom was most likely lethal to most things it attacked. If you got away from it slashing you with its massive razor-sharp claws and meat-shearing razor-sharp teeth, you can run as far as you would like, which you would probably catch up to pretty quickly using its robust, powerful legs to run at you around 7 miles per hour, which may not seem too fast, but when extremely potent venom is clogging in your body, you'd probably collapse before it even reaches you. Then, well, the Megalania has a feast. At some point, all this madness ended, though. Humans most likely hunted down large mammals the Megalania feasted upon, in turn creating less food, and that mixed with the sheer amount of humans altering the ecosystem and climate change, they went extinct. Australia still got worse and worse. I mean, just look at it today. So it's safe to say we're pretty lucky all these megafauna died thousands of years ago. Although the human efforts were still quite fascinating. Not only did these humans survive all around the world, they thrived, despite all these horrors being at every turn. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more. And who knows, maybe I'll do more videos talking about megafauna. Anyway, thanks for watching.